So it's 2 p.m. Eastern now, so we'll go ahead and get started as a few more people are still joining us, but I'll start by introducing myself. So my name is Jenna and I work for Emerging Destinations. Today we have almost the entire team with us. So we of course have founder Jane Barron and Ana Camarad as well. So the three of us will be giving you this presentation today. Of course, we are going to be talking about Ecuador and our exploration that we just got back from. So we did 12 days, the three of us. So I know we mentioned that the Emerging Destinations team takes on Ecuador, but I will mention an honorable mention to Jessie Tate rather, who stayed back and held down the office for us so that the three of us could enjoy Ecuador. So Jessie, if you're out there, thank you so much for doing that. You were greatly missed, but the rest of us three lucky ducks, we did get to explore Ecuador and the Galapagos with our newest client, Enchanted Expeditions. So I will hand things over to you, Ana.
Thank you, Jenna, for your introduction. Hi, everyone. Before we start our virtual trip to Ecuador and the Galapagos Islands, we would like just to remind you the cool companies in cool places we have in our portfolio. In the Africa region, we are proud of represent Kellyan Peacock Safaris, El Iguana Collection, Sky Safari, and Sopa Lodges, all of those in Kenya and Tanzania. Then we also represent the Royal Livingstone Victoria Falls by Anantara in Zambia. And then in the idyllic beaches of Mozambique, we represent Anantara Basaruto Island Resort and Nejumbe Island Resort. Our Africa portfolio is completed with Adventure Consults in Uganda and Rwanda, and then Eco Training in South Africa. Moving to the Americas region, we represent Las Torres Patagonia or Las Torres Reserve, formerly known as Hotel Las Torres on one side, and then Fantástico Sur on the other side for the trekking circuit, both of them located in Torres del Paine National Park in Patagonia, in Chile. Then we represent Grand Hotel Lax, featuring 4 beautiful 5-star hotels in Argentina and Uruguay. Travel Pioneers, one of our newest clients in the portfolio in Costa Rica. And Canyon Mat Restaurant in New Mexico, and our client today, Enchanted Expedition, offering amazing trips in mainland Ecuador, as well as a lodge in Santa Cruz in the Galapagos Island, and 2 beautiful boat cruises sailing the Galapagos Island. Last but not least, our polar product, I would say our Europe portfolio is completed with Iceland Pro Cruises, Iceland Pro Travel, and Hotel Island in Iceland, and our newest client in the portfolio in conjunction with our sister company Rethink Travel Marketing, which is Paxmore in Greece and Czech Republic. So we are really very proud of having all those amazing clients in our portfolio. In case you need any help with any of those destinations or those companies, or maybe you want to schedule a private webinar, just let us know. You can see our contact information at the bottom of the screen now. And moving forward to our today's webinar, we are not doing a sort of a traditional webinar. We want just to share our experience with you. With that said, please feel free to type all the questions that you have for us on the control panel on your right. We will not wait until the end of the presentation to answer those questions. We will be just coming back and forth with your questions and with our experience. So please feel free to just share with us on the control panel with all your questions or doubts about this destination. So also, last thing before I pass this to Jane, we are recording this webinar. So in case you are having a phone call or whatever, don't worry, we will be sending this recording in the upcoming days on our follow-up email. And we will be uploading this recording also in our website, emergingdestinations.com, and in our YouTube channel, Emerging Destinations. If you are not still subscribed to it, we invite you to follow us and subscribe to our YouTube channel. So I think we are ready to move to Ecuador and start exploring such an amazing country, Jane.
Yeah, great. Thank you all so much for joining us. If there's nothing else I have learned in my travels the last few months, and I've actually the last 6 or 7 months, I've made quite a few trips. All of you guys, the world is depending on us to get travelers there. In Ecuador, it was pretty interesting. There were, I don't think we saw another country represented other than Ana and Jenna. Jenna's Canadian and Ana's from Buenos Aires, and they made the Great Escapes. So I first learned about Enchanted Expeditions around 7 years ago at the 8th Adventure Travel World Summit in Chile. I did a pre-adventure trip, and Judy Carvajal, who's the founder and owner of Enchanted Expeditions, was on that trip with me. She and I also are very involved in Women Travel Leaders through COVID, and now have started to work together. So I could not be more excited. Enchanted Expeditions is the real thing. Judy was one of the first women guides in the Galapagos Islands in the late 70s. Her children were born there. She raised her kids there, and started with another company, and then started her own. So they have two boats that are sailing the Galapagos. They also, 30 years, so that was founded 40 years ago. 30 years ago, they started their ground operations, so a full DMC for all of Ecuador, because in my opinion, you can't do the Galapagos without doing mainland Ecuador. You're really missing out if you don't visit that area also. And then, about 3 years ago, just a little before COVID, they bought a lodge on Santa Cruz Island, and that is now Enchanted. I just forgot the name. Enchanted Expeditions Lodge. Thank you.
Enchanted
So
Lodge,
we were lucky. Yeah. So what we did on our trip is we flew into Ecuador, we flew into Quito, and then went directly out to the islands, spent time on Santa Cruz, and then we did a cruise, and then we went back to mainland and visited that. Ecuador, actually do a show of hands, and please, any questions, guys, because it's open and they're ready for travelers. We'd love those. But Ecuador is a very small country. In my opinion, it was the very first trip I made to Ecuador was 1988, I believe. And actually my very first trip to the continent. And it is the whole continent in a small country. It's very, very easy to get around. You've got the Andes, the high Andes, so you've got that Andean culture. You've got the Amazon, so you can go then to the Amazon. And then you've got beaches on the coast. And then of course you've got the Galapagos Islands, one of the wonders of the world. And it is very easy to navigate. So if you're in Quito, basically nothing is more than about a 6-hour drive. So you don't always have to go to the airport and drive to get around. So that is, to me, and fly to get around, that would be it. But that's sort of the country very quickly. And then we're going to show you all our trip and then just see if we have any questions.
Perfect. So as Jane mentioned, we started off by going to the Galapagos Islands. So here's just a few really quick facts about the Galapagos. Now, of course, today we're talking more about our experience there, but I felt that we should at least include this. So it was declared a national park in 1959. There's 14 major islands making up the Galapagos Islands. 97% is a national park. And then how to get there. So we flew from Quito into Baltra, and then of course back out of Baltra into Quito. And that's also where all of the cruises start and end. So I'll just highlight this with my mouse here so you can see. This is the island of Baltra. So this is where you fly into, and then we just took a little ferry across from there to get to Santa Cruz. So that's where we spent our first 3 days. Before I start about our itinerary, though, I did just want to run over the logistics of our arrival into Quito. Jane, do you want to talk about this?
Yeah, so what we do recommend is if you're doing the Galapagos and mainland, most of the flights arrive in the evening, stay at an airport hotel, head out the next morning, because the Galapagos Islands has basically vaccinated most of their population. If you want to, it's like here, if you want to be vaccinated, you've been vaccinated. And so they're requiring people to have a vaccination and to show and have tests and everything. While you don't need it when you leave the Galapagos to go back to mainland, you don't have to have another test. So to make it easy, just get in that, is it 72 or 96 hours?
72.
72 hours. So have that negative test and have that on there so they know. So when you leave the Galapagos, that you need the negative COVID test to get to the Galapagos. You also then have to purchase a migration card for entry into the Galapagos. So you do that actually at the airport. We have all the documentation and everything for you. So it's kind of a process at the airport. You have several steps because they're very careful getting into the islands because they don't want COVID there. With 97% of the island being a national park, virtually everybody makes their living there from tourism. So COVID made it very, very evident that was how tourism dependent they are, more so than most places that we sell. So they're very, very picky about that. And then on arrival, you show the migration card. You have the $100 entry that you have to pay to the national park fee, and then you're in. My wish for you on arrival is to not have a group of birders in front of you when you're getting off the plane, because we finally worked our way around them, because all the birds they saw on arrival, they were so excited they kept stopping and taking pictures. So that was kind of fun.
Longer than it needed to, for sure.
Or a comment on the control panel from one of our attendees, and I think it's a good point just to highlight this.
And I forgot about that. Yeah.
Yes, we started our trip to Ecuador around June 17 or 18, more or less. So at that time, when we traveled to Ecuador, either if we were or we weren't vaccinated, we needed to present a PCR test. But the good news is that since July 1st, if you prove your vaccination, if you can prove your vaccination, you don't need to show a PCR test to enter the country.
So you can save $159.
Yeah.
Which was great.
Yeah.
Which was great. So sorry about that. We've got some questions about the ships, and we will talk about those as we go on and we show the ships.
Yes. So this is what our first few days, we were on Santa Cruz Island. So day 1 to 3, well, day 1 to 4, really, we were on Santa Cruz Island. On day 4, that's when we got onto the boat, and then we did 3 nights on the boat as well. So we will talk about that further here. So this was our very first stop once we arrived to Santa Cruz Island. So we hadn't even gone to the hotel yet. They took us to this reserve. We went Rancho El Manzanillo, it's called, and this is where the giant tortoises are. So this is completely wild. They're not fenced in, you're not in a zoo, anything like that. This is in the wild, and we lucked out, guys, right? We saw like over 80 giant tortoises throughout the afternoon. It was unreal. And these tortoises are up to 300 kilos, just to give you guys an idea of the scale of them. And I had to include this. It was mating season in the Galapagos at the time that we were there. And so this was naive me being like, oh guys, look, there's a tortoise standing on a rock. Everyone's like, Jenna, that's not a tortoise standing on a rock. That's a tortoise on another tortoise. So there's a quick video for you guys.
We're like 13-year-old boys. What can I say? But it was really that was my third trip to the Galapagos, and I had not been since since my son is 27. I was there in 93 was the last time I'd been, so it'd been a long time. The only place I saw a tortoise when I was there before was at the Charles Darwin Research Center. It was unbelievable to see. It was like everywhere it wouldn't be a rock, it would be a tortoise.
Mhm.
So many of them that it was just unbelievable. And this ranch is what's not known well about Ecuador is there are a lot of private reserves. And so this is a private reserve. And so, people come to see the tortoises. They also are making their own rum. And my husband and I brought some of that home. Pretty good. It's really good in a mixture of concoctions. What was it?
Lemongrass tea.
tea. Unbelievable. But we did that, and that is my husband behind us. He joined the group. He joined us, the one lone male on the trip.
And so after we left there, we went to the Enchanted Galapagos Lodge. So we're going to show you a few pictures of the lodge. As Jane mentioned, this is one of their newer ventures. So they purchased it in 2017, and then they've been doing some renovations on it, and they were all up and ready to go. And then, of course, COVID hit. So it is open, ready for visitors. This is the outdoor pool area. The nice thing about the lodge, well, we found it very nice, is that it's actually located just outside of the main town, so about 15 minutes outside, and you're in the highlands. So who knew Santa Cruz Island had highlands, but that's where we were located. So you're kind of away from the hustle and bustle of town, and you have, of course, this gorgeous backdrop as a result of that, and more wildlife. So this is the dining area, and then they have this wonderful open air lounge area. So the top right picture that you see there, they can actually do yoga retreats and stuff there as well. So you can kind of clear out that furniture, makes a beautiful area for doing yoga. And then you can see the nice lounge area in the bottom right, and that fireplace. Although you're in the Galapagos, I can't count. Every night we were sitting having wine around that fireplace. It's just a nice place to relax and talk about the day and all the activities, because it was jam packed.
And what's interesting is the highlands are only about 1,000 feet up, sometimes up to 1,500. But because you've got those cold Pacific, it's almost like a cloud forest sometimes. So there's a lot more moisture than there is even in on the coast when you're on the beach.
And there's some pictures of the rooms for you. Of course, all of them have hot water, all equipped with air conditioning, which is important, and ensuite bathrooms. So we won't spend too much more time on that, but we did just want to highlight a little bit about the lodge. So this brings us to day 2 at Tortuga Bay. So we did a 5-kilometer hike down to this bay, of course, called Tortuga Bay. And this is where we got to learn a lot more about the wildlife that the Galapagos has to offer, and the flora and fauna as well. And we had our wonderful guide with us, Juan. That's him in the right-hand side there. He is a birding expert. So he did a little imitation of the. Could you guys hear?
A little bit.
Okay.
So, but what I really like about Tortuga Bay is, and this is one of the benefits of staying on the islands, is this is where the locals are going. They're, the people who live on the island, if they go to the beach, there are a few beaches that they go to, and this is on Santa Cruz. This is where they go. So it was basically us, and I think there was one other group of a small group of American students that was there while we were there.
Yeah, so the experience at the beach, it was amazing because it was sort of a private beach just for us. We had a lot of time just to enjoy the wildlife, to learn about the flora, to take our time to take a bunch of photos about the birds. So it was really, really amazing because it was just for ourselves.
Yeah. And then day 2, we continued on our afternoon. We went to the Darwin Station. Of course, this is a must-do if you're traveling to the Galapagos. It was very informative. This on the right-hand side there, that's the giraffe tortoise, so you can see their turtle. So That's a kind that they don't have in the wild on the Santa Cruz Islands, so we at least got to see them there. And of course, our picture with the station, Darwin Station sign.
And I
then,
don't know if you're aware that every guide has to be certified and be trained at the Charles Darwin Research Center, every guide in the Galapagos. So it's very important, and they are at the forefront of saving the tortoises. Does anybody know why the tortoises have problems? Yeah? Anyone in our group? Okay, the reason they have problems is the sailors used to come through, and they are great meat, and they can live up to a year with no food. So they would take them and they would put them on the ships in the holds and take them away. And that is why they are endangered, though it did not feel like that on Santa Cruz because we saw so many tortoises, which is awesome.
And then this brings us to day 3. So Judy, as you can see, she's in that left-hand photo. She was with us throughout our entire trip, which was amazing to have her there with us to share all of their local experiences. And of course, that's where she raised her family. So it was really nice to have her with us throughout the way. So she took us around on day 3, and we really just did like a Santa Cruz Island tour. So she took us to all the different sites that tourists or clients could see when they're going to Santa Cruz. So we got a very fast-paced tour just so that we're aware of all the different activities that you can do if you are going to stay at the lodge for an extra night or 2, which we highly recommend doing prior to going on a cruise of the Galapagos. And then day 4, oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was going to see, Jane, if you wanted to talk about El Trapiche and our visit there.
So there are a lot of that. What is so fun about staying on land is you get such a different feel from when you're out on a cruise. You get to see how the people live. And this is right next door. We walked over this delightful man, I believe he was 84. And he showed us the how they do the sugar cane, and at 10 in the morning, yes, we drank the rum, and and how they make the rum with the still, and then also how they roast coffee, all the old-fashioned way. He was a very early settler, and he said when he first came to the island, and he's a farmer now and a rum maker and coffee maker, but he said when he first came to the island, the ships came every 2 months for supplies. So they had to make do and learn how to do the things themselves. I felt like I was taken back to, to early settlers. It was really, really special. And it's a 3-minute walk from the lodge.
Yeah, it's not next door.
Yeah, right next door. And I know we just had a group of American students there, and they kept going back for more to visit and try more coffee again and buy more rum. And it's special, and it's all about local and with all the craft businesses that are happening there.
Yeah, and something that I would love to add to all those activities or experiences that we had the opportunity to enjoy while at the Enchanted Lodge is that even if we at the lodge can arrange everything with a guide and with a private transfer with a car, the lodge offers complimentary bikes. So, and everything is really very close. So instead of going to El Garrapatero beach by car, you can just take your bike at the lodge and then a picnic basket and just spend the day at the Garrapatero beach, or maybe go the other side by bike and visit Puerto Ayora and just spend a half day walking in downtown, but just taking your bike. It's not that you always need a transfer or a car. You can explore the island by yourself and in a more healthy way, like a bicycle.
And if you want to rent an e-bike, you can do that. And then we have had a question. People want to know if you have to pay cash on entry. US, yes, US dollar. US dollar is the currency of Ecuador. So yes, and you do have to pay upon entry. US $100 cash.
Yes, and we have another question here. We have a client that has 8 clients that need to book 2 nights post-cruise extension in Galapagos. So she's asking if those tours that we did while staying at the lodge are available, or do they need to pre-book those tours? How does it work? How in advance do we need to do?
No, going to the beach, no, you can just go. You can do that. And even going next door, you can walk over, but they're not always there. So good.
Give them a heads up.
To give them a call. That's what they did for us. They called and said, hey, we're going to be there in a couple of hours. If we have a 24-hour notice, even better. But
it's just a matter of a couple of hours or days in advance. You don't need to book now for July 2022.
That's right. And then after that, we headed over to the Enchanted Expeditions farm. Jane, do you want to talk about the farm a little bit?
It's in its infancy. So
yeah.
they are growing. Yeah, so this is a farm actually Judy bought. I don't know how, she said how many years ago. And it is a lovely spot, but they are growing coffee. They are growing cacao, and they're making their own chocolate now. And then you can of course see pineapples, and I can't remember the farm manager's name. And we should have put a picture of his beautiful dog. But you know again, just visiting the farm to see how people live and what they're doing there. And you throw seeds out and things grow, though in Galapagos, technically you're not allowed to if it's not already there, you can't bring it in without special permission. So because they're trying to protect the ecosystem. But it was a fun day, a few hours. But we got very dirty.
And then right after that, we went to the cheese factory that they actually have on site at the Enchanted Expeditions Lodge as well. So this is a new COVID venture that they have started. In the picture there on the left-hand side with all of us, next to Judy on her left-hand side, that's her daughter Tatiana, and she's helping out with the lodge, and she's also started this cheese factory. So she's the one making the cheese. They have a great story. I don't think we have enough time to tell you the full story of the cheese factory today, but we can definitely, if you're interested, we can tell you more about that. So they're the only producers on the island, on any Galapagos Islands, making aged cheese. So it's a very cool story and wonderful cheese. You can see some of the pictures. We had a cheese and wine night the one evening, and they presented it to us, and then she gave us a little bit of a intro about all of the different cheeses that they have there. So it was really good. So from there, we go to the boat. Finally, no, it was definitely worthwhile. I know all three of us talked about it, just to learn a little bit more about the Galapagos and to already have an idea of the flora and fauna and the wildlife before going onto the boat was really, really beneficial. And having that local experience, we felt was very, very important, instead of just getting straight to the Galapagos and heading to the islands, to actually get that little bit of time to get to know the culture, to get to know the people, made our time on the boat that much more incredible. So to start out, they have 2 boats that they own and operate for Enchanted Expeditions. So the first is the Beluga. So this is their more yacht style boat. This is not the one we are on, so I'm not going to take too much time to introduce it. We will be having future webinars where we do go a bit more into the in-depth of the actual Enchanted Expeditions operations. So if you do have any questions, we will hopefully be answering those in future webinars. And then the Cachalote Explorer. So this is the ship that we were on. Again, both are 16 passengers, 8 cabins, and I've included some photos of what the actual boat looks like. So there's various different outdoor lounge areas. This is where we were sitting on any of our breaks, reading books or bird watching. We had all the albatross going over top.
Yeah, I was about to say, I was lying on my back taking photos of the albatross flying over us.
Yeah, very, very cool. And then this is their top viewing deck that they have with kayaks as well. And then this is the stern viewing area where we enjoyed many of our sundowners. And this is the inside area. So of course they have 2 tables, 16 passengers. It was really cozy. I don't know. We both just, or all three of us just got onto the boat and we're just like, yeah, I could stay here. There's something about the environment of it was just so welcoming. You just felt at home. So
She's a happy boat.
yes.
It's a happy boat.
And then all of the rooms are quite spacious. We've included a couple different photos to show you. So these are the ones that are underneath the boat, which is where I slept because I get very seasick. So lucky me. And then this is on the top deck. So they have a couple more rooms there as
That
well.
was my
So
room.
this was Jane's room. And then a photo of the bathrooms for you as well as a little bit of the deck plan. So perfect for the 16 passengers. This
Yeah,
we've
real quick
included.
to go back,
Yeah.
we had a question. People, they do want to know
Mhm.
sort of the difference between the beluga and, actually, do you know what a lot of people call it? Not the cachalote, they call it the catch-a-lot. So, and we were saying it catches a lot of animals. But so can y'all tell a little bit of the difference between the boats, just very quickly?
I don't like comparison because we did a site inspection of the beluga and then we spent 4 or 5 days on the cachalote. Both of them are really very comfortable, very cozy, are sort of expedition boats. What I can, and the cabins were really very nice and well decorated in both ships. I would say that when you are selling those ships with Enchanted Expeditions, it's not that you are focusing or selling a cabin, you are selling an experience. And I think that this is the main core of the company. But if we need to compare the ships, maybe I would say that the Beluga has a bit more modern decoration on the public areas, on the dining room. But I don't know if you, Jane or Jenna, can add anything, but both have amazing upper decks where you can enjoy life.
Yes, they're very comfortable, lovely ships, and everything we do is about the experience. It's seeing as diverse, getting as diverse experience as you can, and that's why we have smaller boats. That the larger ships can hold up to 100 passengers, which very much can limit what you're able to do on the islands. So, and then I'll let y'all show what a typical day is.
Yeah, and I just wanted to add too, I mean, you're getting the exact same experience as Anna mentioned. You're having the same level of service. We have all of our captains, they operate on both of the ships, all of the crew, I mean, that's interchangeable. So you're getting the same quality of guides, the same quality of service, and the same experience depending on either boat. So really, as I mentioned, it's about the experience. So speaking of the experience, this is what a typical day on board would look like. So this is similar to what we did. So, you have your early morning breakfast, you get your land excursion, you return to the boat, you get to do some snorkeling, you have lunch. After lunch, you get a bit of a break. We just called it nap time because after lunch, everybody was ready for a nap because you're busy every minute of the day in the sense of you're enjoying all of that the Galapagos has to offer. After your nap or your break time, then we do a second land excursion and sometimes a snorkeling as well before returning to the boat for a bit of a break, and then dinner, and then of course a briefing of the next day's activities, and then more free time. And I wanted to point out there are
We have some
flamingos
questions.
there. Oh, sorry.
Sorry, we have some questions regarding the activities and what type of sort of segments or public we receive or we promote those trips. So the first question is that you already mentioned both Beluga and Cachalote, they both have kayaks on board and they both carry a snorkeling equipment. So those are some of the questions that we are getting on the control panel. And then we have an agent asking if is there any children age restriction either on the lodge or in the boat? And what is our recommendation in terms of ages?
So there's not an actual age limit for the boats. However, we do want to point out that it's 16 passengers per boat. And if it's a baby, a 3-month-old, a 2-year-old, whatever, that counts as one passenger. So you're paying the same price for that child regardless of their age. So if you do want to bring, you know, if you do have a multi-generational family, etc., that want to charter out a boat, that's completely all right. Or if you have a family that's joining another charter, so you can have whatever age you want, but keep in mind you're paying a full price for that child. So, you know, what age will they be able to really appreciate the Galapagos? So that's kind of depends on the child and the family as to what would be the most age appropriate in terms
And
of
we also don't
enjoying.
provide babysitting.
Exactly, yeah. And for them to be able to enjoy and really appreciate these activities, I mean, to do the snorkeling, to enjoy the activities and the wildlife that you have there. So um, hopefully that helps answer that. Was there another question, Anna, or did we kind of go through it?
Yes, yes, Jenna. When you were showing your cabin, in fact, you mentioned that you selected that cabin because you suffer seasickness. So we have a question regarding that. What about the waves and what type of problems or whatever can people suffer here? So it's
I think I can answer that.
Yeah, if you want to answer that, Jane.
Yeah, it's going to depend on the season, how rough the seas are. There are going to be certain areas that you go. This is the Pacific, and you know, I know the Pacific means calm, but it didn't. So, but yeah, so always the lower on the ship, the better. Our boats are pretty steady. They're a maritime people, right? Our operations manager, he's a boat guy. So they've tried to get the steadiest, you know, some of the steadiest small boats you can get. It's not like you're on a catamaran when you're moving up top with the waves. So they are a little more stable, but just take the pills.
Yeah, I never got sick. I'm a great example for this. And we were technically there in what is known as one of the rougher seasons. And really, I was fine. I mean, I just took the pills and I never had any incidents whatsoever. So if I can do it, that's
But
pretty
you
good
know, look,
indicator.
I've got a friend of mine who can't even get on a ferry. She
Yeah.
can't do it. You know, she can't get on a ship at all. So that's just going to be, we never, you never know.
And so these, as we mentioned, these are the activities that you are going to be doing. So a lot of just land walks, snorkeling, there's kayaking as an option, and just sightseeing from the actual boat itself. So, and there's some penguins in the top right-hand corner. I love that photo. We'll,
Okay, so Jenna and I, go back to the penguins.
yeah, there's a
Jenna
penguin.
and I, if you can hear giggling and laughing through snorkeling equipment, as we had 6 penguins, you know, going right underneath us and playing. Another time we were, a couple of times snorkeling, and we had sea lions, and the staff said, oh, if you dive down and bubbles, they'll come follow you. And then if you'll dolphin through the water, they'll come dolphin with you. I mean, it's,
Incredible.
I just giggled like you wouldn't. I just kept laughing with joy with the penguins and then the sea lions. It's just privileged.
Yeah, so as we were mentioning the wildlife there, it's such a rare place because you can the animals just run the islands. Like every land excursion that we did, you're kind of in their territory, so you have the small marked off path that you're able to walk on, but the animals will just get right up there. They'll just come right up to you. So there's nowhere else in the world you can really experience that up close and personal with the wildlife. I mean, you could, not that we did, but you could reach out and touch them. So just to give you an idea of how interactive of an experience it was. I mean, everywhere we went, we were just giggling and enjoying the wildlife, the sea lions, the noises they make. I mean, all of it was incredible. And then of course the birds. So we mentioned the penguins, the albatross a little bit. I'm going to speed up just because I know we're going a little bit over on time. And then the infamous boobies. So they have 3 different types of boobies in the Galapagos Islands. Of course, the most famous is a blue-footed booby. They also have the red-footed boobies, and to the furthest right there is the albatross booby. And then lastly, we have the marine life. So this is what I mean, for me, was my favorite part. There was one point in time. Now this was for our group, so don't get scared that you're going to be forced to do this. But they took us further out into the ocean, and we felt like you're in the middle of the ocean. You're still quite close to land, and we were jumping into the water. And all of a sudden our guide's like, look underneath you. So we're looking underneath us, and there's about 20 hammerhead sharks swimming below us. And my snorkeling partner, Ana, here, thought that it would be hilarious to grab the back of my leg right after I dived in. So I almost had a heart attack thinking that I was being attacked by a hammerhead shark. So thank you, Ana. If anyone ever goes on a trip with her, do not use her as your snorkel buddy. But it was just really, really incredible.
It was an amazing experience.
And then to have the blue-footed boobies landing next to us while we're in the water. And so you're seeing, you lift your head and you see it above the water, and then you're seeing its blue feet on top. I mean, when I say next to us, I mean 2 feet away.
Yeah. And then of course the landscape. So I mean, every single island that we went to, and again, we just did a three night tour. So typically they're longer than that. You're doing a 7 days, so you can see a lot more of the islands. But even from what we did see, every single one was so unique. Every single one had its own identity, whether it was just an adaptation in the pattern of a lava lizard, or in the trees, the way that they grew, the brushes. Every single island felt so different from the other that you really, I mean, you wouldn't get bored just going from island to island, because they are all just unique in their own way. So then just to give you some of our highlights, I think we've been doing that throughout this so far, but the sea lions, the boobies, and then we also saw the seals. As you can see, that big guy there, that was a very cool experience. And then, as I had mentioned earlier, it was mating season while we were there. So we got to see all of the birds doing their mating rituals or dances, and at different levels of in that as well. So we saw like the blue-footed boobies with their like 2-month-old chicks. The left-hand side here, we got to see that was probably only a couple-day old blue-footed booby. You can see the baby sitting underneath the mum. So for me, that was a highlight. And then Jane, do you want to talk about the one photo?
And yeah, one of the more fun things to do on a trip is to try to pose like the various wildlife that we're seeing. And Jenna won the award for the best pose. With a sea lion.
We do have a few others. Unfortunately, we haven't included them in this presentation, but we each took our turn pretending to be one of the different Galapagos animals. So that was very fun.
And if you'll notice that that beach behind us was completely empty. Only one island we went to where there were other people there while we were there. If you do not go right now, you're crazy, because it's you know, once, as many places in the world, you're not going to see this again once the big tourism starts again. It was us. There were 5 of us, so really special. Somebody wanted to know what months are considered more rough waters. That's going to be late June to, if I'm correct, I think December. But again, it's all a relative thing, because, you know, if you're in a cove, you're different areas. It just depends on what islands that you're going out to. And then the other thing I do want to say is, yes, we provide snorkeling equipment. We also provide wetsuits.
For rent, yeah.
Yeah. So we do provide wetsuits.
And we have another question. Sorry, we have another question regarding how about people with minor disabilities, if they can enjoy this trip, or what would you think that would be the best option to offer them to visit the Galapagos?
Look, you need to be able to get on and off a Zodiac. And some sometimes a moving zodiac. That said, it depends on what the disability is and how far they can walk. You do go out. We go out with a guide, so they can't leave someone someplace. And well, they did. I guess you could leave somebody sitting on the beach for a little while, but so you want to be very careful about that. We do work with other ships, and we can find out if there are some ships depending on the disability. Honestly, you know. If you can walk, I think if you can walk a couple of miles, you're going to have a better experience and move up and down over boulders.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of their clientele is in their later 60s, early 70s, that sort of thing. So, I mean, it is a trip that, as Jane mentioned, if you can do, you know, it's pretty, now again, it depends on the landing, but they could definitely help you decide which landing those people would be able to do and which ones maybe they should sit back for.
And then we have another question on what are the difference between a land base and a cruise?
Okay. So Judy, who owns a lodge and owns 2 ships, has lived there over 40 years. Her kids are 3rd or 4th generation from the island, says the best way to see the Galapagos is via ship. And that is because you can get more places. When you do day trips from the islands, you know, you may leave at 6 in the morning or 7 in the morning. You're spending an hour and a half, however long to get there. You have a shorter time, and then you have to head back. Look, if you're not able to do, we would recommend doing both as the ideal trip. But that is why it's you're going to see more from a ship because the islands are pretty far apart.
You can explore deeper and further if you are on a ship.
Yes, and I mean we're taking up so much time doing just the Galapagos portion that we didn't even get to the mainland. So
real quick, the #1 seller is the Galapagos Islands and Machu Picchu. And as agents, what I want to tell you, if you're selling those 2 together, you are missing a sale because you can much easier to combine mainland Ecuador with the Galapagos, but also you can get another sale selling Peru as a standalone destination. So think about it that way to get more sales. And then mainland Ecuador deserves more attention. It really does.
Yes, absolutely. I'm almost thinking we should maybe do a follow-up webinar that we discuss the mainland Ecuador, just in and of itself, so that we stay within our time frame here.
Yeah, so quickly just show some photos.
I'll show some photos of, so this is, as Jane mentioned, how the country is broken down. So Amazon Highlands coast, Galapagos up there on the left. This was our itinerary, so we only spent 4 days on the mainland, where we started out with Quito city tours. So this Quito is the highest constitutional capital, and we did a wonderful city tour around there. There's a nice photo of us with Judy, and then from there we went to Mindo. So very quickly, the Mindo is a cloud forest. We had a wonderful afternoon there. We went to a chocolate shop, I guess, and then showed us through the process. We also went to
some of the best chocolate in the world. They're getting the beans from Ecuador. Even in Switzerland, they're getting them from there.
And this is a great area for birding as well. So as you can see in that photo video there, we actually had the hummingbirds coming right up to us and sitting on our hands. So it was quite an incredible experience. From Mindo, sorry, I'm just going to go through this very quickly. We went to the Cotopaxi National Park, where we stayed at Hacienda Porvenir. This was an absolutely incredible experience. We did it by horseback ride, and it was completely clouded over and actually storming on us while we were horseback riding to the top peak area. Not the peak of the mountain, but just where that photo was taken from. And then right after we arrived and we got off our horses, it was like, ah, and all the clouds moved apart and you could see the Cotopaxi in the background. So it was a very special moment for us to be able to be there for that. And then we got to dress up in the traditional style wear as well. There's a better photo of Chris and Jane and Judy, and a nice photo of us in front of the Cotopaxi. The next day we went.
It didn't look real. It was so
It didn't.
beautiful.
No, like it looked 100% fake. Even looking at it now, it's hard to believe that we were there for that moment. So we very much so lucked out. From there, we went to a rose factory, which was a very cool experience. At the rose factory, every single day they harvest between 20 to 25,000 roses, and that's in the off season. So you can imagine what Valentine's, Mother's Day, those sorts of events looked like. But it was
50,000 a day for Valentine's and Mother's Day.
And they had every single color you could imagine.
Yeah, and I kind of went, going to see a rose factory. It was fascinating. It really was.
Yeah.
And Ecuador is one of the highest producers for roses throughout the world. So it was a very cool experience. After that, we went to an artisan demonstration where we got to see a traditional painter, and he walked us through his garden and told us about the different herbs and foods that they have up there in the highlands. So that was very cool. And then on our last day, we went to Papayacta, which is a must go to if you're going to mainland Ecuador, which you should be. It's a great way to end a trip at the thermal baths, the thermal pools, and it was gorgeous up there. Jane,
beautiful, and after horseback riding, getting in a thermal, awesome.
And again, beautiful. So then just to introduce you, this is the team. Now, when I say team, this is the team that's working at the office in Quito. So keep in mind that the team also includes all of the crew, the captains, all of the staff at the lodge, everybody. So I'm sorry that we don't have a photo that encompasses everyone, but I did want to introduce you to the team. And this is who you will be dealing with when you are ready to get your clients to Ecuador. So did I mention they've all been there for like almost 30 years, I think was like the running average of how long they've all worked for Enchanted Expeditions. So
well, the youngest employee who's in the office is on maternity leave right now. So,
yeah. So they've been together. They're a work family, for lack of a better term. So it was really great. We got to meet them and actually spend a day with them. So that was a really special experience to get to know them and the people that we'd be working with. So I think that's all that we have for you guys. Now we did questions throughout.
Yes, we have a few more questions before we finish. So the first question is, how far apart are all these areas that you show us in mainland? Are these driving distance to from Quito, or would you stay outside Quito?
So you can, Ecuador is a very small country. It's very, very easy to get around. Almost everything within 6 hours. Cotopaxi was 2.5, 3 hour drive. I would recommend staying in Quito for a couple of days, or at least 1 day, do a city tour, seeing the city, trying some of the amazing food. And then I would go out into the highlands, if you've got time, to go to the Amazon. So just depending on what you want to do and how much time you have. And Jenna lived in Ecuador for 6 months. So
I did, yes.
So if you do have
I'm more than happy to answer any questions. It's a second home for me, so it was great to be back there.
And then we have another question. I think it's one of the most frequent questions on those days. What is the process of re-entering Canada?
Oh, right. Okay, so I will speak to this very quickly. Now, I will mention I flew back from the States into Toronto Airport. Now, I know every single airport, from what I've heard, has a slightly different process, so I can't speak to those. But for me, I flew back the very first day that fully vaccinated Canadians could re-enter Canada. I had a negative COVID test, and I just showed that to them when I came through. And from there, they shooed me along, and I was like, this is it, that's happening. But once I grabbed my luggage, then before you leave that area, they handed me a take-home COVID test. So I just took that kit, and you have to do the COVID test within 24 hours of entry into Canada. So once I got home, you go online and you actually have an appointment, a video appointment with a nurse, and she watches you do the COVID test and she walks you through sealing it. I packaged it back up. It came with a Purolator package. And so I just requested a package pickup and put that outside my door. So it was quite an easy process. Just because I got a take-home COVID test, as opposed to, I know some of the airports are actually doing a COVID test on arrival at a testing site. So I can't speak for that, but it was quite simple. And so then because of that, I of course didn't have to quarantine, and I got a negative COVID test back too.
Good. And we'll answer any other questions separately after this. And we broke our rule of 20-minute webinars with 20 minutes of questions. So sorry.
Sorry, thanks for.
We were so excited. So.
That's exactly it. So thank you so much for your time today. Sorry that we went a little bit over, but as Jane said, we were all just so excited to share about our trip. And if you have any questions, you have our email addresses, and we will be sending a webinar follow-up to you later this week.
Great. Thanks so much, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Bye-bye.